desperate and pathetic. Nothing but a coward. You're a fool with nothing to offer. No one will ever believe you. They see you for what you are. You're just a fraud, a shell of a person. And now the power of the spirit of penetrate the demons. They love you. They enslave you to the depths of the hate. I am the son of
I got Mola moves, got that Mola too. You think it's wrong? I could've had too long. Fuck that. Check these Mola moves. You need a Mola too. I can do no wrong. Back of the head long, never gonna cut it.
All these hookers sweet on me. Look at them chasing me, showing me that ass. And I bang up the snatch. I do this shit for free. Go down your mom, count 3. She's taking selfies with the mullet like it's history. I can't outmaneuver you with that pussy, dude. You sit like Buddha waiting on it to come to you. My lines are straight to the point. She shows me gratitude. So what's your latitude? Let's adjust your attitude. With a alligator, double dually Lamborghini. All up in a silly little yellow polka dot bikini.
I got Mola moves, I got that Mola too. You think it's wrong? Back of the head too long. Fuck that.
With a alligator, double dually Lamborghini. All up in a silly little yellow polka dot bikini.
Check these Mola moves. You need a Mola too. I can do no wrong. Back of the head long, never gonna cut it.
Alligator, double dually Lamborghini. All up in a silly little yellow polka dot bikini. You're like the butt of a butter knife cutting up panini. So climb back in your kangaroo pouch like a rolling genie. These moves are hot, these locks I got. This power cannot be disputed and it can't be bought. So you can find me in the studio with all these thoughts. You wanna buy my style, but you can't be what you're not, neighbor.
I got Mola moves, I got that Mola too. You think it's wrong? Back of the head too long. Fuck that. Check these Mola moves. You need a Mola too. I can do no wrong. Back of the head long, never gonna cut it. Got that motherfucking ballin'. You wanna touch it?
Yeah. Next time you come around here with your bitch ass, just remember how my mullet makes your hoes pussy drip, drip, drip.
I got Mola moves, I got that Mola too. You think it's wrong? Back of the head too long. Fuck that. Check these Mola moves. You need a Mola too. I can do no wrong. Never gonna cut it. I got Mola moves, I got that Mola too. You think it's wrong? Back of the head too long. Fuck that. Check these Mola moves. You need a Mola too. I can do no wrong. Never gonna cut it. Never gonna cut it. Never gonna cut it.
Drip, drip,
Mola moves.
just a Mola, bitch.
Mola moves.
drip, drip.
Mola moves. Never gonna cut it.
I just got a package, I can't wait to get home. I spent all day tracking the shipment on my phone, all that she was lacking. I ordered custom, I can't wait to get some. Take it to the bedroom, bitches always nagging. Now I got the air, I send the bitches packing, going my way. I have a new attraction, don't care what you say, it's better in every way. Now baby, it's time to play, we're gonna make us a tape and show everyone the way. Cause I'm going
My dreams.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Fais-moi l'amour.
Je suis amoureux.
Je compte toujours.
Enchanté,
Tu es charmant.
ma chérie, ma
Tu es
petite
charmant.
hostie. Easy touchy little nipple.
Tu es chaud. Fais-moi l'amour.
Like living on a super yacht, making love to a robot. It's like owning a football team, but having sex with a robot. It's like winning an Oscar and Emmy and Grammy when you're fucking a robot. It's like saving a family with a newborn from a fire, but you're fucking a robot.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. We're doing story time. Next hour we're going to be watching a creepy video that Adrian actually sent to me. And it's about our area. Highway 666 was actually turned into Highway 160 because so many people were stealing the signs. So, yeah, there's a lot of legends and lore and things like that are going to be in this video. So I'm super excited to watch it and see what all it entails. We're back with Sue Graftons' book, A is for Killer. Alright. By 9:14, I turned in the rental and picked up my VW, and I was pulling into a parking place in front of my apartment. My eyes felt itchy and I ached from the weariness that felt like the flu, but at least I was home. I let myself in, checked to see that there were no messages, brushed my teeth, took off my shoes, and fell into bed. For once, sleep descended like a blow to the head, and I went down, down, down. I woke at 5 p.m. The 8 hours should have been adequate, but as starved as I was for sleep, I felt I was dragging myself out of quicksand. I was still struggling to adjust to the inverted pattern my life had taken. In bed at dawn, up again in the afternoon. I was eating breakfast at lunchtime, dinner in the dead of night, though often the meal turned out to be cold cereal or scrambled eggs and toast, which meant I ate breakfast twice. I was vaguely aware of a psychological shift, a change in my perception now that I substituted night for day. Like a form of jet lag, my internal clock was no longer synchronized with the rest of the world's. My usual sense of myself was breaking down, and I wondered if a hidden personality might suddenly emerge as if wakened from a long sleep. My day life was calling, and I was curiously reluctant to answer. I rolled out of bed, dumped my dirty clothes, took a shower, and got dressed. I stopped at the mini-mart, where I grabbed a carton of yogurt and an apple. Eating in my car as I headed over to Kepler's. I could have used a couple more hours of sleep, but I was hoping to talk to Lorna's sisters before their mother woke up. Like me, her days and nights were turned around, and I felt a strange bond with her. Mace's plumbing truck wasn't parked in the drive this time. I left my VW on the berm by the white split-rail fence and moved up the walk to the porch where I knocked. Trini answered the door, though it took her a while. "Oh, hi. Mom worked a double shift, and she's not up yet." I figured as much. She said she'd tuck some information in a box and leave it with Berlin. "She's not here right now. She's running some errands. You want to come in and wait?" Thanks. Followed her through the small, densely furnished living room to the dining area, which was located at one end of the kitchen. Sunset wasn't far off, and the kitchen windows were getting dark, lending the lighted kitchen an artificial air of warmth. An ironing board had been set up, and the scent of freshly pressed cotton made me long for summer. Mind if I take a look at Berlin's desk? If the box is close to the surface, I can go ahead and get it. Let me just check my sound really quick and make sure everything's working before I continue. I don't want my speaker peeps and podcast peeps to miss out. All right, we're all good. Trini took up the iron again. "It's right there." She pointed toward the door that led into the den. One corner of the room apparently doubled as the offices for Kepler Plumbing. I remembered seeing both the desk and the filing cabinet the night I talked to Mace. A banker's box with my name scrawled on top was sitting right in plain sight. For once, I resisted any further urge to snoop. I lifted the lid to check the contents. A fragrance wafted up, some delicate combination of citrus and spice. I closed my eyes, wondering if this was Lorna's scent. I'd experienced it before, the very air saturated with someone's characteristic smell. The house keys Janice had mentioned were sitting on top of a neatly packed collection of file folders, all in alphabetical order. Bank statements, past income taxes, dividends, stocks, assorted annual reports. Tucked into one end of the box was a folded cashmere scarf. I pressed the length of it against my face, smelling cut grass, cinnamon, lemon, and clove. I hauled the box back to the kitchen and set it by one of the kitchen chairs, the scarf laid on top. "Is this Lorna's? It was in the box with her stuff." Trini shrugged. "I guess." I folded it twice and tucked it back where it had been. "Mind if I sit down? I was hoping I'd have a chance to talk to you." "Fine," she said. She slid the lever on the iron to the off position. "I hope I'm not interrupting dinner preparations." "I got a casserole in the oven. All I have to do is heat it and make a salad real quick." I took a seat, wondering how to coax some information out of her. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to know, but I considered it a bonus to be alone with her. She was wearing the same cutoffs I'd seen her in before. Her legs looked solid, her bare feet tucked into rubber flip-flops. Her t-shirt, this time, must have been an extra large. The front emblazoned with a painted design. She moved from the ironing board to the kitchen table, where she sat down across from me and began squeezing a tube of paint in a Jackson Pollock type design on the front of a new t-shirt, dots and squiggles. Hanging from a knob on one of the kitchen cabinets was a completed work, its lines of paint puffed out in 3 dimensions. She caught my gaze. "This is puff paint," she said. "You put it on and let it dry, and when you iron it on the wrong side, it puffs out like that." "That's cute," I said. Got up and moved closer to the kitchen cabinet, taking a moment to inspect the finished product. "Look dreadful to me, but what do I know? You sell these?" "Well, no, not yet, but I'm hoping. I made this when I got on, and whenever I go out, everybody's like, 'Oh wow, cool t-shirt.' So I thought since I wasn't working, I could set up my own business." My oh my, she had her sister Lorna, both driven by the entrepreneurial spirit. Entrepreneurial, that's it. "How long have you been doing this?" "Just today." I took my seat at the kitchen table again, watching Trini work. I began to cast out my line. Surely there was something I could wheedle out of her. To my right was a stack of travel brochures, touting Alaskan cruises, ski holidays, and package tours to Canada and the Caribbean. I picked up a pamphlet and began to scan the copy. The world's last unupholstered, unspoiled paradise. Stunning white beaches, deep azure lagoons. Trini saw what I was doing. Those are Berlin's. Where's she going? She doesn't know yet. She says Alaska looks good. Are you going too? He made a disappointed face. I don't have money. Too bad. It looks like fun, I said. She doesn't mind traveling alone. Nuh-uh. She likes it. Not all the time, but if she was to, she says she will. She did the one trip already in the fall. Really? Where'd she go then? Acapulco. She loved it. She says she'll take me if she goes back. Well, that's neat. I was in Viento Negro last summer, but that's as far south as I've been. I haven't been that far. Berlin's always liked to travel. I don't have the same bug. I mean, I like it and all, but there's stuff I'd rather do. Like what? I don't know, buy clothes and stuff. I tried another tack. Lorna's death must have been hard. Are you doing okay with that? I guess so. It's been hard on them. I mean, Mom and Daddy used to be a lot closer. Once Lorna died, seems like everything changed. And now it's like Mom's the only one caught up in it. Lorna's all she talks about. Berlin gets her feelings hurt. It really pisses her off. It's like, what about us? Don't we count for anything? Were you close to Lorna? Not really. Lorna wasn't close to anyone. She lived in her world, and we lived in ours. She had that cabin, and she liked it private. She hated it if people stopped by without asking. A lot of times she wasn't even home. Nights especially, she'd be out somewhere. They made it plain. You should keep away unless you call first and you got yourself invited. Well, how often did you see her? Well, a lot over here whenever she stopped by, but at the cabin, maybe once or twice, in the 3 years she lived there. Berlin liked to go over. She's kind of a nosy person by nature. Lorna was really mysterious. Like what? I don't know, like, why was she so picky about people dropping in? What's the big deal? She didn't have to worry about us. We're her sisters. Well, did you ever find out where she was at night? Nuh-uh. Probably wasn't any special place. After a while, I more or less accepted her for what she was. She wasn't sociable like us. Berlin and me, buddies. We like to pal around and double date and stuff like that. Right now, like neither of us has a boyfriend, so we see movies and go out dancing on the weekends. Lorna never did the first nice thing for either one of us, but, well, she did now and then, but you practically had to lay down and beg. How'd you find out about her death? The police stopped by the house and asked to speak to Daddy. He was the one who told Mom, and she told us. It was kind of creepy. I mean, we thought Lorna was out of town off on vacation, is what Mom said, so we didn't think anything about it when we didn't hear from her. Maybe Mom told us that too, about the other guy. More than one. Oh, yes, skipped a page. We just figured she'd give us a call when she got back. It's horrible to think she was just laying there moldering. Must have been awful. Oh God, I started screaming and Bro got white as a ghost. Daddy was like in shock. Mother took it the worst. She still isn't over it. She was staggering around, shrieking and crying, practically tearing her hair out. I've never seen her like that. He's usually the one that holds the rest of us together, like when Grandma died. This was her own mother. She kept real calm, made airline reservations, packed our bags so we could go back to Iowa to the funeral. We were all young kids, acting dumb, boo-hooing, real pitiful. She had everything all organized, as cool as you please. When we found out about Lorna, she just fell to pieces. Oh, most parents don't expect to outlive their kids, I said. That's what everybody says. It doesn't help that the police think she was murdered and all. What's your opinion? Trini made a mute shrug with her mouth. I guess she could have died from her allergies. I don't like to think about it. Too icky for my taste. I shifted the subject. Were you the one who went to San Francisco with Lorna last year? That was Berlin, she said. Who told you about that? I met the guy on the tape. She glanced up from her work interest. Which one? Which one? Oh, sounds like she might have been into this business quite a bit. Chapter 12. She had the good grace to blush. Despite the dark brown hair, she was fair-complected, and the tint hit her cheeks like a heat rash. She dropped her gaze to the work in front of her, suddenly much busier than she'd been before. I could tell she was casting about for a way to change the subject. She'd been over her work. I guess it was important to get the paint dots just right. Trini, what? How'd you happen to see the tape? And don't say which tape, because you know exactly which tape I'm talking about. I didn't see the tape. Oh, come on. Of course you did. If you didn't, how'd you know there was more than one guy? I don't even know what you're talking about, she said with a pious irritation. I'm talking about the porno tape in which Lorna appeared, remember? Your mother told you. Maybe Mom told us that too, about the other guy, more than one. I said, in my post-skeptical tone. What happened? Did Lorna give you a copy? No. She said giving it 2 sliding syllables, high note to low, offended by notion. Then how'd you know there was more than one guy? I guess. What do you care? I stared at her. Obvious. The obvious conclusion leapt to mind. Were you the one who wrapped it and put it in the mailbox? No, and anyway, I don't have to answer. This time the tone was sullen, but blush came up again. This was better than a polygraph. Who did? I don't know anything about anything, so you might as well change the subject. This is not a court of law. You know, I'm not under oath. The attorney in the making. For a moment, I thought she'd put her fingers in her ears and start humming, just to shut me out. I cocked my head, trying to catch her eye. Trini, I sang. She was studiously engaged in the t-shirt in front of her, adding a gaudy orange spiral of puff paint. I said, come on. I don't care what you did, and I swear I will never say a word to your parents. I've been wondering who sent the tape to them, and now I know. In a way, you did us all a favor. If your mother hadn't been upset about it, she wouldn't have come to me, and the whole investigation might have died where it was. I waited, then gave her a line prompt. Was it Berlin's idea or yours? I don't have an answer. How about a nod if I guessed right? Trini added some lime green stars to the t-shirt. It was getting tackier by the minute, but I felt as though we were getting someplace. I'll bet it was Berlin. Silence. Am I right? Trini lifted one shoulder, still without making eye contact. Oh, well, I'm assuming that little gesture means yes, so Berlin sent the tape? Now the question is, how'd she get it? More silence. Come on, Trini, please. Please, please. I learned this interrogation method back in grade school, and it's particularly effective when the subject matter is a cross-your-heart type secret, just between us girls. I could see her softening, whatever our confidence is. We're usually dying to tell, especially if the confession involves the condemnation of someone else. Her tongue moved across her teeth as though she were testing for fuzz. Finally, she said, "Swear you won't tell?" I held up my hand as if I was taking an oath. I won't say a word to another soul. I won't even mention that you mentioned it. We just got sick of hearing how wonderful she was because she wasn't all that great. She was pretty and she got a great bob, but big deal, you know. Really, I said. Plus, she took money for sex. I mean, Berlin and me would never have done that. So how come Lorna got elevated to the stars? She wasn't pure. She wasn't even good. Human nature, I guess. Your mother doesn't get to have Lorna in her life, but she keeps that perfect picture in her heart, I said. It's hard to let go when that's all you have. Her voice began to rise. But Lorna was a bitch. All she thought of was herself. She hardly gave Mom and Dad the time of day. I'm the one that helps out for all good it does. I'm as sweet as I know how, and it doesn't make any difference. Lorna's the one Mom loves. Berlin and me are just bullshit. Emotion was causing her skin to change colors. Chameleon-like. Tears rose like water suddenly coming to a boil. She put a hand to her face, which twisted as a sob broke through. I reached out and touched her hand. Trini, that's just not true. Your mother loves you very much. The night she came to my office, she talked about you in Berlin. All the fun you have, all the help around the house. You're a treasure to her, honestly. She was crying by then, her voice high-pitched, then pinched. Why doesn't she tell us? She never says a word. Well, maybe she's afraid to, or maybe she doesn't know how anymore, but that doesn't mean she isn't crazy about you. Can't stand it, I can't. She sobbed like a child, giving rein to her grief. I sat and let her work it through on her own. Finally, the tears subsided and she sighed heavily. She fumbled in the pocket of her cutoffs, pulling out a ratty hanky, which she pressed against her eyes. Oh, God, she said. She propped her elbows on the table, then blew her nose. I looked down, realizing she'd picked up the imprint of wet paint on her forearm. Well, shit, look at that, she said. A bubble of laughter came up like a burp escaping. What's going on? Berlin was standing at the front door, her expression blank with suspicion. Both of us jumped and Trini let out a gasp. Earl, you scared me half to death, she said. Where'd you come from? She wiped her eyes in haste, trying to cover up the fact that she'd been crying. Berlin had a plastic carryall of groceries in one hand, her key ring in the other. She fixed Trini with a look. Pardon me for sneaking, I didn't know it. I was interrupting. I parked the driveway. Big is life. Our gaze jumped into mine. What's the matter with you? Nothing, I said. We were talking about Lorna, and Trini got upset. Just what I need. I've heard enough about her. Daddy's got it right. Let's just drop the subject and get on to something else. Where's Mom? Is she up yet? I think she's in the shower, Trini said. Belatedly, I became aware of water running somewhere. Berlin dumped her purse on a chair and moved over to the counter, where she began to unload grocery items. Like Trini, she wore cutoffs, a t-shirt, and flip-flops. Professional attire for the working plumber's helper. The roots on her blonde hair were showing through. Despite the 4-year age difference, her face was a projection of Lorna's, in middle age. Maybe young death isn't bad. Perfect beauty suspended in the amber of time. Berlin turned to Trini. Could you give me a hand? She said, aggrieved. How long has she been here? Trini shot me a pleading look and went over to help her sister. 10 minutes, I supplied, though I hadn't been asked. I just stopped by for the stuff your mother left. Trini was showing me how to make t-shirts, and then we got talking about Lorna's death. I reached for the box, thinking to flee the premises before Janice emerged. Berlin studied me with interest. So you said. Oh, well, fun as this is, I'd better be on my way. I got up, slung the strap of my handbag over my shoulder, and picked up the box, ignoring Berlin. Thanks for the painting lesson, I said to Trini. I'm sorry about Lorna. I know you loved her. Her smile was pained. We said bye and gave me a half-hearted wave. Berlin went into the den without a backward look, closing the door behind her with a decided snap. I stuck my tongue out at her and crossed my eyes, which made Trini laugh. I mouthed, thank you, to Trini and took my leave. It was nearly 6 o'clock when I unlocked my office door and put the box of Lorna's files on my desk. Everybody else in the firm was gone. Even Lonnie, who usually works late, had packed it in for the day. All my tax forms and receipts were still sitting where I'd left them. I was disappointed the elves and fairies hadn't come along to finish up my work. I gathered all the bits and pieces and tucked them in a drawer, clearing space. I doubted Lorna's papers would yield any information, but I needed to take a look. Some coffee on and sat down, set the lid of the box aside, and began to work my way through the manila folders. It looked as if someone had lifted Lorna's files directly from a desk drawer and placed them in the banker's box. Each file was labeled neatly. Tucked in the front were copies of various probate forms that Janice must have picked up from the attorney. It looked as though she were doing the preliminary work of culling and assembling, making penciled notes. I studied each sheet, trying to form a picture of Lorna Kepler's financial status. An accountant could probably have made quick work of this. I, on the other hand, have made a C- in high school math. I had to frown and sigh and chew my pencil. Janice had filled out a schedule of Lorna's assets, listing the cash in her possession at the time of her death. Uncashed checks payable to her, bank accounts, stocks, bonds, treasury bills, mutual bills. Lorna had no pension plan and no life insurance. She did have a small insurance policy for the jewelry she'd acquired. She hadn't owned any real property, but her liquid assets came to a little under $500,000. Holy shnikes. Not bad for a part-time clerk, harlot. Janice had included a copy of Lorna's will, which seemed clear enough. She left all the valuables, including jewelry, cash, stocks, bonds, and other financial assets, to her parents. Attached to the will was a copy of the completed proof of holographic instrument that Janice had filed. In it, she attested that she was acquainted with the decedent for 25 years, had personal knowledge of her handwriting, that she examined the will and determined that its handwritten provisions were written by, and the instrument signed by, the hand of the decedent. Danielle had speculated that Lorna wouldn't have a will, but the document seemed consistent with Lorna's systematic nature. Neither Berlin nor Trini had been left any money, but that didn't seem unusual. $2,000 apiece might have gone a long way toward softening their attitudes, but she had not understood the animosity that they harbored. Or maybe she knew and felt the same about them. At any rate, the estate was complicated. I didn't think it necessitated the services of an attorney, but the Keplers might have been intimidated by all the official paperwork. I checked back through the last few years of Lorna's income tax. Her only W-2s were from the water treatment plant. Under your occupation, she had listed herself as secretary and mental health consultant. I had to smile at that. She'd been meticulous in reporting income, taking only standard deductions. She'd never donated a dime to charity, but she'd been largely honest with the government. To the recipient, I suppose the services of a prostitute might be classified under mental health. As for the payments themselves, I guess no one at the IRS had ever wondered why the bulk of her consulting fees were paid to her in cash. Janice had notified the post office to forward Lorna's mail to her, and she tossed in a stack of unopened statements. Windowed envelopes from various sources, all of them marked important tax information. I opened a few just to check the year-end against my list. Among them was a statement from a bank in Simi Valley that I'd seen on her tax forms for the last 2 years. The account had been closed out, but the bank had sent her a 1099 INT, reporting the interest accrued during the first 4 months of the year. I took that in with the other statements. All the credit cards had been canceled and notices sent to each company. I sorted through some of the files Lorna had kept. Canceled checks, receipts for utilities, various credit card slips. I laid out the canceled checks like a hand of solitaire. At the bottom, under Memo, she'd dutifully written in the purpose of the payment: groceries, manicure, haircut, linens, sundries. There was something touching about the care she'd taken. She hadn't known she'd be dead by the time these checks came back. She hadn't known her last meal would be her last, that every action she'd taken and each endeavor she'd engaged in were part of some finite number that would soon run out. Sometimes the hardest part of my job is the incessant reminder of the fact we're all trying to assiduously ignore. We are here temporarily. Life is only ours on loan. Put down my pencil and eased my feet up on my desk, rocking back on my swivel chair. The room seemed dark, and I reached over and flipped on the lamp on the bookshelf behind me. Among Lorna's possessions, there was no address book, no calendar, no appointment book of any kind. That might have sparked my curiosity, but I wondered if it didn't speak to Lorna's caution about her clients. Danielle had told me she was very tight-lipped. and I felt this discretion might extend to the keeping of written notes as well. I reached for the manila envelope that held the crime scene photographs. I sorted through until I found the angles that showed the papers on our table and countertop. Pulled light over closer, but there was no way to see if there was an appointment book visible. I glanced at my watch. I was dog-tired. I was also bored and hungry, but I could feel my senses quicken as the darkness gathered depth. Maybe I was turning into a vampire or a werewolf, repelled by sunlight and seduced by the moon. I got up and shrugged into my jacket, leaving Lorna's papers on my desk. What was bothering me? I scanned the desktop. A fact, something obvious, had passed through my hands. The problem with being tired is that your brain doesn't work so hot. Idly, I paused and moved a batch of papers aside, leafing through the forms. I looked at the holographic will and Janice's supporting statement. I didn't think that was it. In theory, it would seem self-serving that Janice was in a position to attest to the legitimacy of a will from which she largely benefited. However, the truth of it was that if Lorna had died with no will at all, the result would have been the same. I picked up the bank notices and shuffled through them again, pausing when I got to the statement from the bank in Simi. The interest was minimal since she'd closed the account in April. Before that, she'd maintained a balance of roughly $20,000. I looked at the closing date. The zero balance showed as of Friday, April 20th, the day before she died. I pulled out the files that Lieutenant Dolan had given me. The personal property inventory mentioned all manner of items found in the premises, including Lorna's handbag and her wallet, containing all her credit cards and $100 in cash. Nowhere was there mention of $20,000. I took the notice with me to the Xerox room around the corner, made a copy of the statement, and stuck it in my handbag. Serena Bonney had been the first person on the scene. I checked my notes for her father's address, packed up Lorna's papers with the crime scene photographs, and took the banker's box with me down the stairs to my car. The address I'd picked up for Clark Esselman turned out to be a sizable estate, maybe 7 or 8 acres surrounded by a low sandstone wall, beyond which the rolling lawns had been erased by the dark. Landscaping floods washed light across the exterior of the house, which was constructed in the French country style, meaning long and low with a steeply pitched roof. Mullioned windows formed a series of staunch yellow grids along the facade, while the tall fieldstone chimneys jutted up like black towers against the charcoal sky. Low-voltage lights defined the foliage and walkways, allowing me a fair sense of what it was or must have looked like by day. Interior lights, winking in a small structure some distance from the main house, suggested a guest house or perhaps maids' quarters. When I reached the main entrance, I could see electronic gates. A keypad and intercom were planted at expensive car window height. Naturally, my VW left me disadvantaged, and in order to buzz, I had to pull on the emergency brake, open the car door, and torque my whole body, risking vicious back spasms. I pushed the button, wishing I could order a Big Mac and fries. A disembodied voice came in response. Yes? Oh, hi, I'm Kenzie Milhone. I have some house keys that belong to Serena Bonney. There was no reply. What did I expect? A gasp of astonishment? Half a second later, 2 halves of the gate began to swing back in silence. I eased my VW up the circular driveway, lined with junipers. The entry was cobblestone, with a separate lane leading to the left and on around to the rear. Caught a glimpse of garages like the line of horse stables. Just to be contrary, I bypassed the front door and drove around the side of the house, to a brightly lighted gravel parking pad in back. The 4-car garage was linked to the main house by a long, covered breezeway, beyond which I could see a short stretch of lawn intersected by a man-made reflecting pond, submerged lights tucked among its rocks. All across the property, lighting picked out significant landscape features. Ornamental shrubs and tree trunks appearing like oils painted on black velvet. On the clear black surface of the pond, water lilies grew in clumps, breaking up a perfect inverted image of the house. Night blooming jasmine filled the air with perfume. I backtracked to the front door and rang properly. Moments later, Serena answered, dressed in slacks and a white silk shirt. "I brought your keys back," I said, holding them out to her. "Those are my keys?" "Oh, so they are," she said. "Where did these come from?" "Lorna's mother came across them. You must have given Lorna a set when she was house-sitting for you." "Thanks, I'd forgotten. Nice of you to return them." "I've also got a question, if you can spare a minute." "Sure, come on in. Dad's out on the patio. He just got out of the hospital today. Have you met him?" "I don't think our paths have ever crossed," I said. I followed her through the house and into a large country kitchen. A cook was in the process of preparing an evening meal, barely glancing up from her chopping board as we passed through. An informal dining table large enough to seat 8 was located in a bay of French doors on the side of the room. The ceiling rose a story and a half, the crisscrossing wooden beams, an assortment of baskets and bunches of dried herbs hung on wooden pegs. The floor was pale, glossy pine. The layout of the room allowed space for 2 separate cooking islands, about 10 feet apart. One was topped with dark granite, with its own inlaid hardwood cutting surfaces and a butler's sink. The second housed a full-size sink, 2 dishwashers, and a trash compactor. A fireplace on a raised hearth held a blazing fire. Serena opened the French doors and I followed her out. A wide flagstone patio ran the width of the house. Outside lights seemed to create an artificial day. A black-bottom lap pool, a good 75 feet 20, defined its outer edges. The water was clear, but the black tile seemed to erase its inner dimensions. Pool lights picked up a shifting web of emerald green that somehow made the bottom look endlessly deep. Diving into that would be like a plunge into Loch Ness. God knew what creatures might be lurking in its abyss. Clark Esselman, in his robe and slippers, a stick in his hand, was teasing a black Labrador retriever into the ready position. "Okay, Max, here we go now. Here we go." The dog was full-grown, probably the same age and dog years as the old man himself. Max nearly quivered, totally confused on the game being played. As we approached, the old man threw the stick into the lap pool. The dog flung himself into the water, moving toward the stick, which was now bobbing in the water at the far end. I recognized Serena's father from numerous pictures that had appeared in the Santa Teresa Dispatch over the years. White-haired, in his 70s, he carried himself with an old-fashioned, ramrod straight posture. His heart problems had affected him. It was hard to see now. Serena smiled, watching them. This is the first chance he's had to connect with Max. They usually go through this thing in the morning, and what a sight they are. Dad swims in one lane, and the dog swims in the other. Vaguely, I was aware of the telephone ringing somewhere inside the house. The dog collected the stick in his teeth and swam in our direction, scrambling up the stairs at the near end of the pool. He dropped it at the old man's feet and then barked once sharply. Esselman threw the stick again. It sailed toward the deep end of the pool, landing with a faint splash. The dog flew off the side and swam, head high. The old man laughed and clapped his hands, urging the dog on. "Come on, Max, come on!" The retriever clamped his mouth on the stick again and turned, paddling back to the stairs, where he scrambled out, water pouring off his oily coat. Max dropped the stick at Esselman's feet and then shook himself vigorously. Water flew out in all directions. Both Serena and her father laughed. Esselman brushed at the polka dots of the water in his cotton robe. I could have sworn Max was grinning, but I might have been mistaken. A maid in black uniform appeared at the French door. "Mr. Esselman, phone for you." The old man turned and glanced in that direction, then headed toward the house, while the dog pranced sideways and barked, hoping for one more toss. Serena caught my eye and smiled. Clearly, her father's hospital discharge had lightened her mood. "Can I offer you a glass of wine?" "I'd better not," I said. "Wine makes me sleepy and I have work to do." We moved back through the French doors into the kitchen, where the wood fire popped cheerfully. Esselman was standing near the planning center on the telephone. He glanced over his shoulder and raised a hand indicating his awareness of our presence. Beyond him, the door to the hall was open, and the dog's wet footprints led to a second door that was now closed. I had to guess Max had been relegated to the basement until he managed to dry himself. I heard a scratching noise, and then the dog issued one of those brief barks intended to make his wishes known. "Don't be ridiculous, of course. I'll be there." "Well, I'm opposed, of course. We're talking about an allotment of 12 million gallons a year. I'm absolutely adamant about this, and I don't care who knows it." His manner shifted to something slightly less gruff. "I feel fine." "I appreciate that, Ned, and I hope you'll tell Julia I received the flowers she sent, and they were lovely." "Yes, I'll do that. I don't have much choice." Serena keeps me on a very tight leash. He turned and rolled his eyes at her, knowing that she was nearby. "I'll see you at the meeting Friday night. Just tell Bob and Drusilla how I'm voting on this. We can talk about it then, but I hope we're on accord." "Thank you. I'll do that. Same to you." He hung up the handset with a shake of his head. "Damn fools. First time my back is turned, they get sweet-talked into something. I hate the oil companies. That Stockton fellow's not going to have his way on this." "I thought you were in his corner." "I changed my mind," he said emphatically. He held his hand up to me. "Please excuse my bad manners. I shouldn't keep you standing while I rant and rave. Clark Esselman. You caught me in the middle of my daily romp with the dog. I don't believe we met." I introduced myself. His grip was firm, but I could detect a slight tremor in his fingers. Up close, I could see that his color was poor. He looked anemic, and the flesh on the back of his right hand was bruised from some medical procedure. Still, he had a certain hearty determination that seemed to prevail in the face of his recurring health problems. "Dad, you're not seriously thinking of trying to make it to a board meeting?" "You can bet on it," he said. "You just got home. You're in no shape. The doctor doesn't even want you driving." "I can take a taxi if I need, or I can have Ned pick me up." "I don't mind you driving. That's not the point," she said. "I really think you ought to take it easy for a few days." "Nonsense. I'm not so old or infirm that I can't make decisions about what I'll do on any given day. Now, if you girls will excuse me, I'm going up to take a rest before dinner." "It's my pleasure, Miss Milhoon. I hope the next time we meet you'll find me decently dressed. I don't usually meet the public in my bathrobe." Serena touched his arm. "You need help getting up the stairs?" "Thankfully I don't," he said. He moved from the room with a shuffling gait that nevertheless propelled him at nearly normal speeds. As he passed the basement, he reached over and opened the door. The dog must have been lurking at the top of the stairs because he appeared at once and trotted after the old man, glancing back at us with satisfaction. As Serena turned back to me, she sighed in exasperation. "That man is so stubborn, he drives me nuts. I've never had children, but surely parents are worse." "Ah, well, enough. I'm sure you didn't come here to listen to my gripes. You said you had a question?" "I'm looking for some money Lorna might have had when she died. Apparently, she closed out a bank account on Friday of that week. As far as I can see, there's $20,000 unaccounted for. I wondered if you'd seen any cash on the premises." Serena put a hand on her chest in surprise. She had that kind of money? That's incredible. She actually had quite a bit more, but this is the only money that seems to be missing. I can tell I'm in the wrong business. Wait till Roger hears this. "You didn't see any sign of that the day you found the body? Might have been a cashier's check." Not me. Ask our landlord. I didn't even go in. And he did? Well, it was only for a minute, but I'm sure he did. He told me once he caught the smell, he turned right around and went back to his place and called the cops. That's true, but then while we were waiting for the police to show up, he opened the door and went in. To do what? Serena shook her head. I don't know. I guess I thought he wanted to see what it was. I'd forgotten all about it till you brought it up. Well, on that note, boys and girls, that's the end of our story time for tonight. We will pick up on this next week, chapter 13. So, let's go to our music break. On this break, we have Mr. Jeff Hilliard with his 80s ballad, Abandoned. Followed by Miss Mia Savage with her band, which is Her. And if you want to catch up with her or see what she's up to, go over to Instagram and look up Antidote for Savages. And she'll be singing The Mirror in Crypto, Your Skeleton, and The Bottom Line. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Left here alone, just a shadow of my erection on the wall. Why won't you answer my calls? I gave you my all with the love we made together all night long. I just don't know what went wrong. I rolled the dice, 'cause I thought I saw forever in your eyes. Was all that passion a lie? Just another fool you seduced and left behind.
Take me to your leader or leave me alone. Somebody please take me out. Rest of time. Rest of time. Here.
No record, no work, no job, no savings or nothing. Just a choice right now between fear and love. Choice right now between fear and love.
Welcome back. Thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Me and Uncle Mike here, we're going to share a video with you. So I hope you guys are ready for this. I was just watching a video about the whole demon phase thing, and it's so freaking weird. You know, you remember the chick on the plane that was saying, well, that's happening to a lot of people, especially since that a solar eclipse happened. It seems like perhaps the veil is thinner. Not quite sure. All right, just checking really quick. Okay, sound is good. All right, we're going to go to our video. You guys ready? Because I'm pretty excited to see what the heck is going to go on with this. All right, so this video is by Lights Out. If you guys don't know them or haven't seen them before, make sure you go over. Please subscribe. I'm going to do that right now. So I just subscribed, and this is about U.S. Highway 666, demon dogs, ghost cars, unexplained accidents, skinwalkers, UFOs, and I don't know. I can't read the rest, but I grew up 2 blocks away, well, from 4th grade on, from Highway 666, and it's funny because the signs kept getting stolen, just like the 420 signs, the 420 highway signs. Yeah, they changed it from Highway 666 to Highway 160. But yes, I'm very interested and intrigued to get into this. Thank you, Adrian, for sharing this video with me.
Going on in here perfectly, and I hope you all love it as much as we do.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Bunch of candles surrounding our whole area. You guys can't see it. It's off camera, but it looks like if you walked into this room, we're having like a seance or something.
Pretty much. It's kind of yeah. Everybody that walks in here pretty much turns around and walks right back out because it's
yeah. Thanks for inviting me. I'm going.
A creepy vibe in here.
Yeah.
Just overall,
I love it. It's awesome.
Lovely Blair Fowler. I don't know if any of you have heard of her before, but we'll link her information below. She's a longtime YouTuber, social media star, really, and she is an interior designer. And she actually helped us sort of bring my vision of creating this sort of haunted house, haunted mansion Gothic, Baroque look to life. And without her, it would not have turned out as good as it did. So thank you so much, Blair.
Yeah,
we really
thank you, Blair.
appreciate it. But we are so excited to finally be back. And for those that haven't been, are relatively new to the show, we took a couple weeks off over the holidays in order to make this move. And if you know anything about podcasting, you know how much equipment is involved in this, and just the set build and testing everything. It takes a long time. So we're so happy to finally be back. We've missed you.
Yes.
Hopefully you've missed us, because it has been very hard not to podcast these last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And, it was a great holiday season. Hopefully you had a great time with friends and family. And during that time, it was actually really cool. Our podcast peaked at number 2 top overall podcast on Spotify. Can you believe that?
Oh, I felt like I was
Oh, right after Joe Rogan. That's awesome.
A Christmas gift from the heavens. Like, what's going on here? Because we just woke up one morning and we looked at the Spotify rankings, and there was Lights Out right under Joe Rogan, the king of podcasting. So unbelievable. And I just want to thank everybody out there who's supported the show from the very beginning, and just have been along for the ride and seen sort of the evolution of Lights Out. And now we're in this next chapter of the show in 2022. We're just so excited to see where, our stories and travels take us on this dark journey that we're all on together. But today we are going to be diving into the unexplained phenomenon of Highway 666, which I didn't even know was a real thing until I discovered Highway 666, which now it is actually US 491. But that doesn't stop the amount of experiences, paranormal to accidents, and just all sorts of very bizarre activity that has taken place on this stretch of highway. So that's what we're going to be diving into.
Look at that plateau
today.
there.
But this episode of the podcast is brought to you by
the landscape is
Purple
amazing
in Raycon. So Highway 666 is a 193-mile stretch of road that travels through rugged desert, flat plains, and the vast wilderness of the American Southwest. The road starts in the farming town of Monticello, Utah, at the base of the Navajo Mountains. It curves through the southwest corner of Colorado, then passes through the Ute Mountain Indian Reservation and the Navajo Nation, and it finally shoots south through New Mexico, where it ends in the city of Gallup. And since it was the 6th highway off US 66, this was the reason it was given the number 666 by the American Association of State Highway Officials after its construction in 1926. But many, as you can probably imagine, were quick to point out that 666, that this number was the number of the beast in Christian mythology. And in the book of Revelations, if you ever read the Bible, the number 666 is given to a beast that comes out of the abyss in an apocalyptic vision. So the number has become associated with the Antichrist or the devil. And that's how the highway earned the nickname Devil's Highway, along with Beast of a Highway, or Satan's Highway, or just straight up the highway to hell. And as soon as the highway took on the number, people began paying attention to the strange and haunting things that happened along the long stretch of road. It became impossible to ignore the unexplained accidents, UFO activity, and paranormal events that happened out in the barren tracts of land. And most of the road rests in the middle of nowhere with endless desert plains ahead and behind. Drivers claim to feel uneasy along the road, especially while traveling alone, feeling like something terrible might just happen at any moment. And superstitious drivers avoid the highway entirely. A report by the U.S. Department of Transportation stated that people refused to travel on the road, not because of safety, but because they believed the devil controlled everything that happened along the highway. New Mexico's former governor, Bill Richardson, pushed for the road to be renumbered. As part of his campaign for governor, he promised to renumber the highway as a part of a larger plan in order to improve its conditions and build better relations with the Navajo Nation. Much of the highway had been forgotten and deteriorated over the years, especially the stretch of road through the Navajo Nation. Although the Navajo Nation doesn't share the same superstitions towards the number 666, they knew that its bad reputation was a reason for its neglect. So the road was eventually changed to US 491 in 2003, after decades of accidents, deaths, and unexplained
Weird.
phenomena. The old historic signs still remain along the side of
What
the
the
road,
heck?
reminding drivers that they're traveling along the former highway known as Highway 666. And the signs are kept around to help drivers who use outdated maps and atlases, but they also stand as a reminder of strange events that have terrorized travelers for almost a century. Throughout its bizarre history, many notice the stretch of highway had an above-average rate for accidents and deaths, and many point their fingers at alcohol abuse, but others think there might be something more supernatural at play. Through the 1900s, any given year saw nearly 15 to 20 deaths along Highway 666. Nearly 75% of the deaths were hitchhikers, and many of them had been drinking before they died. DWI checkpoints now riddle many parts of the highway, hoping to decrease the number of accidents on the road. Even though alcohol might be the number one cause for death along the highway, many people believe that alcoholism is a curse. I absolutely love it. It fits lights out. 666. The death toll has changed in the past few decades after it was renamed. In 2000, there were 489 accidents reported and 13 fatalities along US 666 between mile markers 0 and 69. In 2007, after the highway changed to US 491, the number of accidents dropped to 20, with only one fatality. Some believe the number of deaths dropped because of the DWI checkpoints and the highway improvements made at its busiest interchanges. But others believe it's because the devil has less of a grasp on the highway now that it's no longer numbered after the beast. But many claim that even after the numbers changed, the evil energy still lingers, and that a simple change in numbers doesn't break a curse. Many of the highway improvements can be credited to the Navajo Nation, which had pushed for better highway conditions for years. The route travels through Ute Mountain Indian Reservation, the Navajo Nation Reservation, and passes the sacred mountain of Shiprock that's governed by the Navajo. This massive mountain sits towards the center of the Four Corners region, where New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado meet. Much of the area is occupied by the Navajo Nation, nearly 27,000 square miles, and much of it straddles Highway 666. Back in the spring of 1993, this area was hit with the hantavirus, a rare viral infection spread by rodents. And over the course of a year, it mysteriously killed several healthy teenagers and athletes in the area. And some locals accused the cursed highway for the spread of this virus. The Navajo people have lived in the area since roughly 1400 AD, and many Navajo myths and legends mention Shiprock Mountain and the surrounding lands. Their name for the mountain roughly translates to rock with wings. It's believed that the peak of Shiprock brought the Navajo to the southwest centuries ago. And one story tells of the Navajo living on the mountain's peak when they first arrived. They had only come down to plant their fields and retrieve water from the base of the mountain. And one day, as the men of the tribe went down to gather food, the peak of the mountain was struck by lightning, causing a massive explosion. The trail to where they lived on the mountain was completely destroyed, and only a sheer cliff remained. So the women and children were stranded at the top, and the men had no way back up. In the end, the women and children slowly starved to death on the peak of the mountain.
That's
and from
sad.
then on, the presence of people at the peak of Shiprock was forbidden. They feared if anyone returned to the peak, they might stir up the ghosts of the dead. But many climbers have enjoyed making their way to the top for years. 7 challenging climbs lead to the top of Shiprock, and only the most experienced climbers ever made it to the peak. But climbing Shiprock became illegal in 1970. After 3 serious injuries, the Navajo Nation banned rock climbing on Shiprock and all the climbing areas in their territory. But despite the ban, people try to sneak by authorities and still try to climb Shiprock to this very day. Another Navajo legend of Shiprock mentions bird monsters that once nested on its peak. The birds
Thunderbirds.
were massive, and they fed on human flesh. As the story goes, a great warrior killed 2 of the adult bird monsters and changed 2 young ones into an eagle and an owl. Many other Navajo stories mention the peak and its mystical history found its way into the chants that have been passed down for generations. The peak of Shiprock stands as one of the most important geological landmarks along Highway 666 and a sacred place for the Navajo. But as sacred as the land might be, many travelers can't shake the dread of Highway 666. Throughout the past century, Highway 666 has gotten the reputation of being one of the most haunted highways in America. One unnamed eyewitness talked about their terrible experience on the highway during one spring trip. Coincidentally, and along the longest section of Highway 666. Most of the drive was uneventful until they got to Cortez, Colorado. From there,
Oh my gosh.
until Provo, Utah, a horrible feeling came over them.
Yee.
It was a heavy, anxious feeling that they couldn't shake. They began having panic attacks as they drove along and experienced an irrational fear of dying. Specifically, they thought someone, somehow, was going to murder them. On top of all this, they thought they were going insane because they were so terrified, and they were self-aware enough to know that their emotions were out of control. They kept having visions of other drivers running them off the road into the deep canyons where no one would ever find them. On the first night of the drive, they pulled off of the highway and spent the night at a motel in Green River, Utah. But the feelings of dread didn't go away. As they tried to fall asleep, the weight of dread kept bothering them. On the next day, the feelings didn't begin to fade until they drove through Provo, Utah. And luckily, by the time they got to Idaho, the feelings of dread and panic had mostly disappeared. But by that point, they were far away from Highway 666. During their entire journey, they never saw anything supernatural. There were no ghosts or apparitions, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But they had never experienced a drive like this before. Whatever happened to them is still a mystery, but the driver promised themselves that they'd never drive along that stretch of highway ever again. Unlike the unnamed eyewitness, many people have seen apparitions, ghosts, and even haunted vehicles along the highway. The most notorious is the mysterious black sedan, also known as Satan's sedan. It's terrorized countless drivers over the years. Most of Highway 666 is a long stretch of road on a flat land where you can see for miles. And at any given area along the road, you can see the horizon in front of you and behind you. Witnesses have claimed to spot a black sedan appearing in their rearview mirror, usually near dusk or at night. Many report the car being a 1930s vintage Pierce Arrow Roadster, which is an old-fashioned two-seater car with a convertible roof and a spare wheel attached to its side. When it begins its pursuit, the headlights flash and the engine roars as the black car catches up to its next victim. It usually sneaks up with its headlights off before flickering them on and gunning it towards the car ahead. And no matter how fast you drive, the black sedan will always catch up. When the sedan has gotten close enough for the driver to see inside, some report that a black, shadowy figure sits behind the steering wheel. Others say that the driver's seat is completely empty and the car looks to be driving itself. The black sedan will rear end or sideswipe the driver until they're forced off of the road or lose control and end up in a lethal accident. And according to legend, it's been credited with at least 5 deaths along Highway 666.
I've never
As for the
heard this
survivors,
before.
they've
That's
seen the black
awesome.
sedan drive off and vanish into thin air within seconds. If that wasn't enough to keep you from traveling Highway 666, well, there's another haunted vehicle that's seen along the highway, and it's a massive 18-wheeler speeding down the narrow lanes. Witnesses have claimed to see a bright flash and a semi-truck appear out of nowhere with a demon driver behind the wheel. The driver holds an eternal grudge against the living, so anyone they see along the road could be their very next victim. Linda Dunning, the author of Lost Landscapes, Utah's Ghosts, Mysterious Creatures, and Aliens, told a story of her husband traveling down Highway 666 and his encounter with a demon semi-truck. She said that he was on his way to Texas, traveling on a stretch of highway toward Gallup, New Mexico. The road was completely empty, and he hadn't seen another car for miles. Suddenly, a massive semi-truck came out of nowhere, traveling at ridiculous speeds, Sparks flew from the wheel wells and flames burst out of the smokestack. And after seeing the monstrosity barreling towards him, her husband pulled to the side of the road and ran to a safe area in the desert, where he watched the truck fly past him at nearly 130 miles an hour. It then proceeded to swerve between lanes until it disappeared into the distance. Some have even seen the truck smash into other vehicles with such violence that the victims in their cars have exploded into non-existence. Besides a few skid marks on the asphalt, there is no trace of the vehicles left behind. People are warned not to slow down or stop along the highway. It's safer to keep going or stop at the next closest city rather than strand yourself along the accursed road. But many people have had car troubles, so they've had no choice but to stop. Cars have been known to overheat or have a tire blowout mysteriously, and many don't see it as a coincidence. They always give credit to the curse of Highway 666. Another reason drivers shouldn't stop along the highway is that feral dogs have terrorized travelers for decades. Known as demon dogs, or the hounds of hell, these vicious beasts have been spotted prowling along the side of the road waiting for their next prey. These dogs have bloodshot eyes and their jowls drip with drool. They wear a short coat of black fur that shows off their lean muscles, and they can run. Away they drove along fast. Some say they can match the pace of a car at highway speeds. They snap their jaws and bark at passing cars, and if they decide to attack, they move in a large pack. Their jaws and claws are strong enough to slash through tires, and they can even lunge through car windows and rip drivers to shreds. Several motorists have claimed to have run over the hounds in defense, but when they look in the rearview mirror, these dogs get up and run away unharmed. Supposedly, a pack of dogs ambushed 3 members of a biker gang along Highway 666 several years ago.
Oh, wow.
As the pack hunted them down, they lost control of their bikes and crashed along the side of the road. They tumbled across the ground, but before they could get up, the dogs were already on them. The dogs pounced on the bikers and tore through their leather jackets, and they let out a low, deep growls with their teeth sunk deep into the biker's skin. They chewed the arms off 2 bikers and ripped most of the face off of a third before darting back into the desert. Luckily, not all of the unexplained activity along Highway 666 is as malicious as the hounds of hell. One of the most common sightings along the road is the phantom hitchhikers that point their thumbs out towards cars. Some have occasionally caused accidents by running out into the road, but there's one spirit in particular who doesn't seem hostile, and she might be one of the only friendly spirits along the highway. Many drivers report seeing a strange girl standing quietly where the road meets the desert. Bright glowing orbs float across the dark highway at night.
Okay, so I just have to add really quick. My brother-in-law had an experience on Highway 666 where they pulled over to use the restroom on the side of the road, and you could hear like sound of coyotes or whatnot. Could be the devil dogs, whatever, skinwalkers, I don't know. Like swirling around. And so they all ran back to the vehicle. And then there was another time, like with this, they're saying there's a female entity. He saw a woman with blonde hair, white dress, so beautiful. And they pulled over, and it was not a woman at all. It was not good.
Just before the young girl appears, she's dressed in a white nightgown, and her pale face shines in the moonlight. She wears a sad, unnerving expression on her face, like something is wrong. So many drivers pull over to ask if she's okay, but she's mute and never responds. And after a moment, she dematerializes and disappears from view. As far as the reports go, she's never harmed anyone along the road, and many think she's the soul of a victim who died on the highway a long, long time ago. Now, if you thought spirits, hellhounds, and haunted vehicles were enough, well, just wait till you hear about the UFOs that have been seen, and, of course, shapeshifters. Before we get into that, I'm going to take a quick break.
For SWs.
For today. It's funny. There are all these gimmicks that promise a great night's sleep. I don't care what kind of toppers there are or how heavy a blanket may be. It's just lipstick on a pig. If you're sleeping on a terrible mattress, your sleep will be terrible. It's that simple. That's why I recommend sleeping on a Purple mattress. That's because
I've
only
heard good
Purple
things.
mattresses have the Gel Flex Grid. It's a super stretchy, ultra squishy material
That
that
was so
adapts
funny.
and flexes around
Lipstick on a
pressure
pig.
points and
I
doesn't
haven't heard a
retain
term
heat.
like that
The Gel
forever.
Flex Grid is amazingly supportive for your back and legs while cushioning your shoulders, neck, and hips, no matter how you sleep. Unlike memory
They're
foam,
like
which
egg
remembers
crate,
everything,
different.
thanks to the Gel Flex Grid, Purple mattresses bounce back as you move and shift,
Wow.
and you'll never have that I'm stuck feeling people get with memory foam. Purple was nice enough to send me one of their Purple mattresses, and I gotta say, it has changed my sleep forever. I absolutely love the Gel Flex Grid technology because one of my biggest problems is I get really hot at night. And for some reason,
Mm-hmm.
my old mattress, which was a memory foam mattress, just
My skin
made me
crawls.
so
I can't
hot all
stand
the
it.
time. But now
And
with
my
the Gel
ears
Flex
ring.
Grid, it keeps me nice and cool, and I absolutely love that it bounces back after I wake up in the morning so that when I go back to bed that night, I'm not falling back into the same holes. Getting a great night's sleep
It's
starts
like
with having
over
a great mattress, so
3,000 for
get a
this
Purple
one.
mattress. Go to
But
purple.com/lightsout10
Purple mattress,
and
I
use
could just
code lightsout10.
imagine
For a limited
waking up
time,
with
you
that
can
little,
get 10% off any order
square
of $200 or
thing,
more.
square
That's
pattern all over your body. I don't know if that
purple.com/lightsout10
would happen
and
or what,
code
but
lightsout10 for 10% off any order of
could
$200 or more.
happen.
Again, that's purple.com/lightsout10.
I want to try the
promo
egg
code
test.
lightsout10.
Not on my bed, but on somebody
A lot
else's.
of people didn't even make resolutions this year, and you know what? I get it. But that doesn't mean you
Yeah.
shouldn't still find a way to shake things up, whether it's by switching up your workout routine or going someplace new. Whatever way you challenge yourself this new year, there's no better way to do it than with a pair of Raycon wireless earbuds in your ears. Raycon wireless earbuds are
I've
the
heard
best way
good
to bring
things.
audio with you because no matter how much you shake things up, literally, no matter how much you shake, you know that they won't fall out of your ears. Their
You never
everyday
know.
earbuds look, feel, and sound better.
I've been taking
than
like
ever. There's also awareness mode
sleep
for when you need to listen to your
pills
surroundings.
from the dollar
So you can
store.
take Raycons with you
The first
wherever
ones
you
were
go.
like
These are
little
really great for
blue
when I
ones.
go walk my dogs.
These
because
that
when you're
I'm
out
taking recently are
walking
like
along,
little gel
the
caps.
road, in my case,
But my friend
I need to be
Glow
able to hear when
swears
cars are
on
pulling up behind me. So I absolutely
melatonin,
love
so I'm gonna
that
try that.
awareness mode.
Let's
Plus,
see if
with
that
optimized
works.
gel
I
tips
hope
for
it
the
does,
perfect in-ear fit,
because
these
I'm really
earbuds are so
sick and tired
comfortable
of
they
being
will
sick and
not
tired.
budge. Trust me, I love Raycon wireless earbuds for falling asleep in because they do fit your ears so well and they are so comfortable that you can sleep all night with them in and you don't wake up the next morning with your
I
ears
do.
throbbing from all the pain.
Sometimes my
I also
my
love that
beats
Raycons
pop
offer
out
8
of my
hours of
ears.
playtime and have a 32-hour battery
Beats.
life, and their case charges them up for you, so when you're not using them, they're getting charged up to that 100% battery life. And they're priced just right. You get the quality audio at half the price of other premium audio brands, and it's no wonder Raycon's everyday earbuds have over 48,000 5-star reviews. So right now, Lights Out listeners can get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/lightsout. That's buyraycon.com/lightsout to save 15% off on Raycons. Again, that's buyraycon.com/lightsout. And our last sponsor for today is one of my favorites. and that is HelloFresh. I love to eat. You can probably tell by looking at me that I haven't missed a meal ever, probably. And that's all thanks to HelloFresh. With my busy schedule
Granny
and
fed you
everything I
good.
got going on between recording multiple podcasts and running a CBD wellness company, it is very, very limited time that I have in order to go grocery shopping and then come home, cook the meals, find the recipes, clean up, and do all of that. It just is not doable. But what's great about HelloFresh is that they make it super simple for me to go online, pick out the recipes I want each week, and they ship pre-measured ingredients and all of the meats and produce that I need in order to make these mouth-watering, delicious recipes that are also healthy right to my door. And again, it only takes about 30 minutes to get these recipes cooked up. And at the end of the day, you have a delicious home-cooked meal. But best of all, HelloFresh is 72% cheaper than a restaurant meal of the same quality. And you can save on average over $65 per month when you order HelloFresh
Let's
instead
go.
of
Let's get
grocery
back to the
shopping,
stories.
which is amazing. That's more money to put towards those other 2022 goals of yours. HelloFresh offers 50 menu and market items to choose from every week, including
2022.
veggie,
Wow.
calorie smart, family friendly, and gourmet options, which the gourmet options
But I really
are
do like this channel.
really
It's
lit,
pretty cool.
really, really good stuff. But the best thing about HelloFresh
Lit.
is its flexibility.
It's the
You can
shiznit.
stop and start it whenever you want. You can customize your order, the amount of meals that you want at any point in time on their website, along with delivery day, food preferences, and your plan size. So if you go out of town and you don't need a box, you just go up there and skip that week. Really, really easy. There's no doubt in my mind that if you haven't tried HelloFresh and you go and try right now, you will absolutely love it. You can go to hellofresh.com/lightsout16 and use code lightsout16.
They should have named it
for up to 16
HelloFresh.
free meals and 3 free gifts.
HELO.
It's no wonder that HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. So check it out today at hellofresh.com/lightsout16 and use code lightsout16 for up to 16 free meals.
Thanks,
and 3
fellas.
free gifts. One of the
Let's
most
get on with the
interesting
show.
things to me about Highway 666 is that there's a phenomenon that many drivers have experienced called time distortion, or it's also known as lost time.
That is true.
I'm a believer in many things that fall into the paranormal realm, including UFOs, aliens, ghost spirits, all that kind of thing. But I also believe in energy. I believe energy is all around us, and we all have the ability to interact with it.
It's endless.
We all have the ability to harness it and use it however way we want.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things I believe is that I think there is truly vortexes of energy that are
Vortices.
found around the planet. And they can be associated with structures. They can be associated with natural elements. And I think in the case of Highway 666, I believe it runs through areas where there is these energy vortexes, which cause this time distortion to occur. There's a lot of reports of drivers completely losing track of time, and others have had hours added to their commute with no recollection of the drive at all. Some have even teleported from one area along the highway to another with no memory of what happened in between. It's very possible that in these energy vortexes that time is being distorted as you're moving through these pockets. And it's also possible that maybe where these energy vortexes are, they could have this ability to sort of portal you from one place to another. And perhaps this is where UFOs sort of enter into our reality and come in from other realities or other dimensions. So it's very possible that Highway 666, because it runs through some of these energy vortexes or portals, that this is why people experience that time distortion, as well as see a number of different types of UFOs and other paranormal activity. Some even believe that victims of time loss were actually abducted by aliens and had their memories wiped when they were dropped back to Earth.
Wow.
As you probably know from a lot of the alien abduction stories that we have covered here on Lights Out, you know that one of the number one things that people who claim to have been abducted have said is that there was this loss in time. It was like they were here in 1 second, and then 1 second later, they were in a completely different place, and they had just experienced all of this in a matter of maybe what felt like eternity to them during it. But then when they actually looked down at their watch, it was a matter of seconds or minutes that went by in real time. So it's very interesting that a lot of people do believe that maybe these people experiencing time distortion could have been potentially abducted by whether it's aliens or interdimensional beings or who knows what else. I mean, there's lots of possibilities here, including potentially government secret projects, but we won't go down that rabbit hole right now. Many also believe that the loss in time and memory are symptoms of when UFOs use their anti-gravity systems in order to manipulate space and time, which allows them to sort of travel at these really supernatural speeds. I mean, there's really no way to explain it.
I hate driving through snowstorms like this.
That's insane amounts of time. I mean, I believe there's a UFO video out in Utah, and I'll have to look at the location in relation to Highway 666, but there are these filmmakers that were out there, and they were just filming B-roll footage for some film they were working on. And in post, they discovered that while they were flying their drones over this area of desert in Utah, there was a flying saucer, and it's hard to even really tell how big it is, came flying in from one corner of the desert across their camera lens and out in a matter of seconds. And then you can see it over in the distance. So the footage of this UFO that I'm talking about that was captured by the drone, the owner of that footage, Brian Hanley, who actually captured it, has actually made the footage available for download from the actual YouTube video he posted so that people could analyze it and try to make sure that this wasn't faked and that this wasn't CGI or anything like that. And so people have actually done that, and they've actually analyzed this footage of this flying saucer that flew in and out of frame in a matter of seconds. And they calculated that this thing was moving at like 3,500 miles per hour, which is absurdly fast for any sort of object, let alone an object that could be piloted by something. I mean, there's no known technology that I'm aware of where a human or anything, you know, it could have been unmanned of some sort, but 3,500 miles per hour is extremely fast. And I can't think of anything off the top of my head that could fly that quickly and move
that's
that
redonkulous.
across that sort of distance. And this was out near Area 51, I believe. So just like this UFO that was captured in Utah, many of the UFOs seen along Highway 666 have been seen with the capability of instant acceleration, where they go from a stationary point in the sky to incredible speeds in a matter of seconds. The ships can hover in place, and then they instantly blast off, disappearing into the stars. And this suggests that the UFOs obviously use some sort of anti-gravity technology, because instant acceleration to Mach 5 speeds would instantly tear a normal spaceship apart under the stress of G-force. So UFO enthusiasts suspect that the ships use some sort of anti-gravity technology to bypass traditional laws of physics. Others suggest that the UFOs use something called space-time metric engineering, a technology that creates space-time bubbles in order to defy physics. But either way, these alien technologies are accused of causing time to shift, dilate, or even disappear completely along Highway 666. And supposedly thousands of travelers along this highway have reported a loss of time at some point or another. Besides the fear of what flies in the sky, many along Highway 666 fear what's on the land, especially when passing through the Navajo Nation territory. A common complaint near this area is the presence of skinwalkers or shapeshifters. Navajo legend says that the skinwalkers are evil witches, man or women, who can transform, possess, or disguise themselves as an animal. They often use the skin of dead animals to shapeshift, and the Navajo word for one version of skinwalkers roughly translates to, by means of it, it goes on all fours.
Wow.
They are seen as the opposite of Navajo cultural values. The Navajo healers and workers are seen as medicine men and women who do good for the community, while the witches and skinwalkers are evil people who perform twisted ceremonies and manipulate magic to do their evil bidding. The leaders willing to take on the responsibility of magic are usually strong in character and spirit, but magic can sometimes corrupt the weak, turning them into witches and skinwalkers. Not much is known about skinwalkers, since many traditional Navajo people are against talking openly about them. Many believe the discussions about evil Navajo witches need to stay within the community, and some believe that simply talking about the subject has the chance of summoning a skinwalker. Many of the skinwalkers along Highway 666 are seen as coyotes, wolves, and crows. For wolves and coyotes, the skinwalkers have increased stamina, nocturnal vision, enhanced hearing and a sense of smell, and the endurance to run long distances across the desert. In animal form, they'll run out in front of cars and switch back to human form, causing drivers to swerve out of the way in panic. And other times they materialize in the back seats of cars, so drivers are warned to make sure there's no room for them to sit inside your vehicle. Outside of Navajo folklore, many think the only way to kill a skinwalker is to use silver bullets, or bullets coated in white ash. And many believe that if you make eye contact with one, they'll do everything in their power. Silver bullet is for werewolf. Some signs of a skinwalker is for skinwalkers. Are dead animal pelts on the ground. SWs. The rancid smell of a dead animal, or a metallic smell that's impossible to ignore. Anyone who sees or smells these signs along Highway 666 is usually moments away from serious danger, and skinwalkers have actually been reported as one of the main causes of fatal accidents along Highway 666. And to end this episode, I wanted to share a story I found on Reddit from a user that goes by eParkhose. And he tells a story of a tow truck driver and his strange experiences along the highway. After I got out of high school, I had a lot of trouble finding work. I'd had some problems at home that had led me to being something of a firebug. And while I never did any serious damage, it gave me enough of a permanent record to make me a risk to any potential employer. I didn't want to keep working at my crappy burger flipping job, so I called around to what I'm pretty sure was almost 200 businesses all around Albuquerque and beyond. The one that wound up hiring me was a towing company all the way out in Gallup, run by a tough old Hopi guy named Albert. I was more than a little reluctant to take the job because jewelry. It's Gallup, the murder capital of the state. But the pay was surprisingly good, and so I packed up my things and moved 2 hours west. I didn't know jack about towing, so for the first few weeks I rode along with Albert while he showed me the ropes. This sounds like it'd be easy or even fun, but he was one hell of a hard ass. The kind of guy who'd let you do the whole setup before tearing it all down because you messed up some tiny thing. At the time, it seemed like he was just a sadistic asshole, but looking back, I can see that he was just safety-oriented and worried that a clueless newbie would screw up big time if he wasn't hard on me. And to be honest, he was probably right. Anyway, the story I want to tell took place after I'd been working at the towing company for a month. It was January 11th, 2004. I was staring at a calendar on the wall waiting for my shift to end when the call came in. I got in on the second ring, silently cursing getting a new job at 4:45. Hello, this is Lomekama Towing. How may I help you today? Is Albert there, the man on the other end of the line asked, and he spoke with a strong Texan accent. Yeah, I can get him on if you want to speak to him, or I can take a note. I opened the desk drawer and produced a notepad and then pulled a pen out of my pocket. No, I just wanted to make sure this was the right place, he coughed. This is Officer Peterson speaking. There's a car off the road near the turnoff to Service Road 9, and we need it taken to storage. All right, we'll get out there soon, I said. The call ended and I set the phone back on the cradle, blowing wind out of my cheeks. I hated having to take cars from off of Route 666 to storage because they always ended up in missing persons cases. I'd already helped with 2 in the last month, and going through records on my break told me that there had been more than a dozen in the last 2 years alone. It was always the same. The res cops or sometimes state police would find a car in the ditch somewhere on the highway, doors standing wide open and all the people gone. Their tracks disappearing.
That's how I saw that truck before I saw my first Skinwalker.
Sometimes there was even a second car that pulled over to help them in a similar state.
It's so scary.
No one ever found the bodies. Just then, the door to the bathroom opened and Albert stepped out, cinching his belt with a slight frown on his face, saying, "Somebody call?" "Oh yeah," I said, "another car off the road near Service Route 9. Albert sighed, "Damn." He checked his watch. "Do you want to come? I can do it myself." Nah, I really didn't have much to do other than watch TV, and I had a feeling that Albert would judge me for dipping out. Albert shrugged and walked towards the garage. I scrambled after him, managing to catch the door just before it closed, and barreled through. I locked it behind me, mindful of how I'd been chewed out the last time I had left it unlocked, and then hurried over to the passenger door and scrambled inside. Albert had already gotten the engine started and didn't even wait for me to buckle my seatbelt before putting the truck in gear. The truck rumbled through the side streets before turning onto the highway. I filled Albert in on the brief call, and then we drove in silence, myself staring out into the darkening sky. The stars were starting to show, and even with the light level there were dozens more than were when I lived in the city.
Okay, so I hate to pause here, but I have to do this for my crew over on Spreaker. So I just want to thank you guys for joining me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Story time with me, TessaTNT, and then this awesome video that Adrian shared with us that I'm sharing with you. If you want to check out the latter part of it, you can find us on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube under We Are Paradox Media. But I just want to say, you guys, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Don't forget, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a bit better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media because without you, there is no us. So thank you so much, my Spreaker peeps and my podcast peeps. Definitely. It's freaking awesome to have you here. Okay, so I'm looking here and it says we have an hour and 3 minutes, so never mind. If you're listening, let's keep going. What do you think? Let's go. Let's do this. Up. All right.
After about 20 minutes of driving, we rolled through the small town of Twin Lakes, more of a cluster of buildings in a small town, and I turned my focus to the road in front of us. The turnoff that the officer had reported is only a couple of minutes beyond the town, and I wanted to get a good look at the crash site so we could get out easier. The lights of a stopped state police car came into view, and Albert slowed the truck, no doubt wondering, as I was, why there was only a state car there. We were a good way onto the reservation, and Navajo cops preferred to handle these cases themselves without getting the state authorities involved. The 2 other times I'd seen cases like this, the cars at the scene were reservation police, and even then there was always 2. So this was weird. The truck slowed to a stop beside the car, and Albert rolled the window down, looking over to the other vehicle's open window. I leaned forward and stared over the police car, into the Osceola beyond. There was a red minivan with its front buried in the dirt, and all of its doors wide open and junk spewing out onto the ground.
Oh my gosh.
This was going to be a tough job. Howdy, you're Officer Peterson, no? Albert asked. The officer turned to look at him, wearing a trooper hat and dark shades so large that you could...
So I just have to say really quick, my skinwalker happening, I don't know what to call it, experience. So we're driving down to Phoenix, Arizona through, okay, so you go through Cortez, you take a right to go down to Phoenix, and you go past the Four Corners, etc. It was between there and Tuba City. And like he's saying, like the door is wide open of this truck. You can see the interior lights on. Even the other side is open. Nobody around the truck. And then the very next driveway, you see this blonde chick who's got really long blonde hair. She's got this striped shirt on. Her arms are dangly, like to where her hands are below her knees. And she looked really pregnant, and her pants were popped open. So those 2 things were really freaking weird. And then Vern's like, hey, should we turn around and pick her up? I'm like, fuck no, dude. You want to get eaten too? Forget about it.
I could barely make out his sickly-looking skin around his beard.
Ugh.
He looked like he'd been living in a cabin in the hills for the last year. A few long seconds after Albert had spoken to him, he nodded in such a robotic manner that it reminded me of druggies that I'd gone to school with. Albert's eyes flicked from the car to the wrecked van. You're sure we can get this one moving and it won't disrupt anything? Have the techs gotten out here yet? The officer nodded stiffly again, and Albert shot me a worried look. As I previously mentioned, I had a fairly serious record, and so did my boss. Pissing off some nutjob cop would be real bad for the both of us, but so would cleaning up a crime scene. After nearly a minute of tense silence, I felt something push into my and saw Albert palming it towards me. I grabbed it and held it in my hand, uncertain of what to do. Go set up the hazard cones, he said, speaking louder than he normally did. I turned and popped the door, sliding out of the seat. Before I was all the way out, he whispered, call the non-emergency line and ask if there's an officer here. I nodded, closing the door, and scurried to the back of the truck. I dialed the number for the dispatch line and shoved the phone against my ear with my shoulder, grabbing the traffic cones and flashlight that were kept in a storage panel in either hand. I set out the cones on the road south, then shuffled around the periphery of the headlights to set up the other pair. All this time, the obscenely loud please hold message is blaring in my ear so loud that I'm wincing, and it's messing up my hearing. That's why I didn't hear it at first. As I stood back up after dropping the last cone, I heard what sounded like a garbled shout coming from off to my left. A chill ran up my spine, and I turned to look at the direction it came from, the flashlight following my gaze. That's when the chill turned to full-blown ice clutching around my heart, because there's a coyote perched on the far side of the Osceola. Its fur is a mangy mixture of yellow and brown. Its eyes are terrifying, full of hunger, and what I swore could be hatred. Its mouth opened like a door falling off of its bearings. I can't get the hazards on, it said.
It is better.
The coyotes don't have voices, but even if they did, I'm sure this one's wouldn't be normal. It'd be like a serial killer's or something I don't know. It's weird, I know, but my brain was going 12 ways at once, and that's what my memory of that moment was. It sounded deep, but shallow at the same time, just wrong. I took several steps back, and the sudden brightness of the headlights made everything to the left of the animal invisible. "Boss!" I shouted, nervously glancing over at the cab of the truck. "Boss!" "What, boy?" Albert's voice turned from annoyance to fear in a single syllable. The coyote easily leapt over the Osceola in a single bound and started to inch towards me. "Aw, shit,
Uh-oh.
shit, don't turn your back on it, but don't look in its eyes either. Back up,
No.
back up towards the truck slowly. Turn
Face
and
it,
you'll
but
die."
don't look at it.
I started to creep back, every fiber of my being screaming for me to run for my life as Albert's words faded into an intense, harrowing silence. I barely kept myself from turning and fleeing. "Turn and you'll die," I repeated myself, "keep backing up." The coyote kept inching towards me, the paw scuffling across the pavement. It opens its mouth and repeated the phrase with the same limp motion. It was getting closer, and I picked up the pace, moving as fast as I could. The coyote was getting closer and closer, and a feeling ran down my back as the panic and fear seizing me increased to nearly petrifying levels. I didn't want to, but I just knew, like the sort of way you know something's horribly going to happen, that you can't do anything to stop it, that I'm going to run. I tensed, hoping to God or anyone else listening that I could make it to the truck before the coyote does. But then I felt my legs come out from under me, and I fell backward, my eyes still locked on the animal. It tensed and started to lunge as my ass hit the pavement, and then the air was filled by the crack of gunshots. Air whooshed by my head as I flipped around and sprinted for the truck, ripping the door open and leaping inside, in what felt like a single movement. The truck flew backward, and screams and the sound scraping tires filled the air. I slammed the door just in time as Albert threw us into a multi-point turn and roared back down the road.
Thanks,
to gallop.
Adrian.
I turned in my seat and stared back towards the stopped car. The state police car was shaking violently, but I couldn't see anything else through the tinted windows. As the car slowly faded out of view, I see, or at least I think I saw, I'm not entirely sure, the coyote stepping out on the street on two legs.
And this guy is doing such a good job telling these stories.
I saw, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. As we hurtled down the road, I sat in stunned silence for what must have been something like 15 minutes. What was that? I stammered, the shock keeping me from getting my words out.
What?
And Albert grunted. It talked. How the hell was it talking? I asked, unable to
does a
stem the tide
coyote
of
talk?
thoughts. Did you shoot it? You shot
Fucking
it, right?
Skinwalker, dude.
Then how did it... It jumped over me, I think. Yeah, it did, and then it attacked the officer.
I don't like it. I don't like it a lot. And I don't like this either. What the crack is happening?
Officer. I kept rambling on as we raced through the city.
No, this is not cool. Damn it. Sorry. I don't know why this is doing what it's doing, but I think it's my router. I don't know. Hopefully I get a new one soon.
Doing what in hindsight must have been 20 miles above the limit. As soon as we were back at the shop, Albert jumped out and ran to the opening of the garage and dropped the metal covering thing over it. He came back and turned off the car, gesturing for me to follow him. I did, and we went back into the office where he made a pot of coffee, poured it, and handed me a cup. By this point, I had sat down in the waiting area, and Albert sat in a chair a few spots away. "Drink up. You can't go to sleep tonight," he said. "How come?" I asked, hoping to finally get an answer. Albert sighed and then said, "Look, all I know is what we saw was some Navajo spirit. They're faster and stronger than we are, and if you see one, your only hope is to get to a truck and get out of there. They're a mix of human and animal, and I think they have a chase instinct like coyotes and wolves do. That's why I told you not to run, because I thought that it would. Anyway, the only thing you can do is run. You can't shoot it, at least not without special bullets. Regular ones just piss them off, like the officer found out. And then when you get to a solid building, you close and lock all the entrances, cover any windows, and stay up until dawn the next morning. God willing, they'll leave you alone. If you see one again, talk to a shaman." He stood up and shuffled off to the back room, calling over his shoulder, "Don't bother asking. I don't know anymore." He came back with some blankets and rags, and we covered all the windows, and then stayed up talking for the rest of the night. The next day I went back home and slept for a full day, and we didn't take any calls on the res for the next week, partly because of the incident, and partly because of a massive pileup on Route 66 near the state line, and that kept us busy for the next couple days. As a footnote, in August of that year, I was talking to a reservation cop near another disappearance case, and he told me that back in January, a state policeman had turned up at the door of a trailer a few miles away in the middle of the night, buck naked, but without a scratch on him. When they found his car, it was covered in blood,
Ooh-wee.
a mixture of coyote and human, but none of it was his. It entered the pantheon of weird shit that happened on the Devil's Highway, the first such entry that I had any part in. But that's a story for a different time. Wow.
Indeed.
That's a wild
Good
story.
job.
Totally. Pretty believable
Fucking
one
high
at that,
five,
too. I mean,
dude.
obviously, it's
That's
an
badass.
anonymous Reddit user, but I mean, the amount of detail put into that, and
Yeah.
really sees he was
Yes.
just telling you like what he saw.
Mm-hmm.
And he even said he wasn't
Wonderful
sure if he saw the coyote
storyteller.
get up on two legs, but he swears up and down that this coyote spoke to him, which
Mhm.
is super creepy, man.
That is.
That's crazy.
Ugh.
And this is just
Could you
one story of
imagine?
countless others that are out there of people who
Yeah.
have encountered shapeshifters or skinwalkers
Oh my
out there
goodness.
in these long stretches of just land,
Mm-hmm.
especially
Mhm.
around reservations and things like that.
So I couldn't help but notice how many similarities there were to Skinwalker Ranch with this highway.
Right? Somebody
And
does,
kinda
huh?
Seems
Adrian,
like they both start with
he don't
the
know.
Navajo
He's just reading what he
land, or
got.
maybe this
Doesn't mean he
interdimensional
knows. He's just
doorway
reading
or
it.
portal was
Sharing
there
it.
before the Native Americans, occupied the land.
Oh my
But with
gosh.
Skinwalker Ranch, like kind of like a similar sighting, similar way
Yeah.
it all came about.
Well, it's the same. It's similar. It's in the same area pretty much.
Oh yeah,
If you
right.
think about where
Right.
Skinwalker Ranch is, I mean, it's all in this area. It's in the
Mm.
southwest Four Corners area of
Uh-huh.
of Colorado, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico.
Definitely.
And this is where it's at. I mean, I want to go out there and see this
I
for
love
myself,
these
'cause
guys,
that's
and
the
I'm
thing,
so
is, like,
grateful
it's
that you
one thing
shared
to
this
take
with
people's
me.
word for it and
I'm hooked.
listen to other stories, but it's another
literally
to actually
hooked.
go out there and just drive
Freaking
out there
awesome,
and see what
for
happens.
sure.
At the
Right.
same time, it's like just the sheer amount of reports of people.
I love the new
experiencing
office,
strange
everything.
things
It's
and time
badass.
distortion, UFOs.
And the way
I mean,
they
there's clearly
use their
something
cadence
very
of their voice and they're telling the
special
story.
about this area
Fucking
of
love
land.
it. It's
I mean,
awesome.
just the amount of paranormal activity that happens out there is just
Oh my gosh.
extraordinary,
Yeah.
and that's what lends me to
It
believe that there is
is.
something far more
Lights out.
advanced
Don't
and
forget.
intricate happening sort of behind the scenes, or maybe it's something that we just can't see with the naked eye. It's
Yeah.
something that
Pretty
as
sure. I
humans,
can't
we're
wait to
not able
see and
perceive
look in
this
on that.
energy
It's gonna be pretty
hotspot that
freaking awesome.
is occurring out here in the middle of the desert in these long stretches. You wonder why there's not all of these people living out there. Why haven't we expanded and built up civilization out there? Is that
Right.
for a reason? And obviously the Native Americans have their reservations out there, and I'm a
It's
strong
so
believer
ridiculous what the government
that
did.
that's their
I really hate
their
it.
land, and let's let them, they should hold on to that land. We shouldn't come in and just build all around them and take more from them than we already have. But it's very interesting to me. I mean, all of Native American culture and, if you call it folklore or whatever, I think is very interesting. And I do believe there's a lot of truth to their stories. And I think that
I would say
a lot of
lore,
their
not
experiences
folklore.
are,
But
things that we should take seriously, like, and not just like laugh it off as like, oh, this is a silly story
Right.
about, a man coyote,
Seriously.
Yeah.
scaring
Right.
people. Like this could be absolutely real for all we know. I mean,
so there is one story. Well, I know several, but this is one that really hit my core. So there was a couple. It first started off with two coyotes. They're running at an expedient amount of speed. They get cornered in this valley where they can't climb up. They can't climb up. And then once the officers get there, they find a male and a female with their face paint on and stuff like that. These two, I think, were like the good side of skinwalkers, because you can have a loss in the family. You can gain this magic or this structure or whatnot, but not be on the dark side. Mostly it is dark side stuff, but I do believe there are some that practice this magic that are good. And they cornered them, they got them, and it was a naked female, a naked male. It was like boyfriend and girlfriend running, just having fun. There's two little coyotes, and the officer's like, okay, all right, chief, what should I do with these guys? Nothing. there's nothing to do because they didn't break the law and they're just practicing their religion, their beliefs. You could have been born and accidentally killed your mother, you know? So, and that's one of the loopholes that you have to do is to kill someone that's close to you. People that do it intentionally are bad. People that do it accidentally are not.
I mean, there could be
Let's
absolutely this sort of entities
Mhm.
that exist
Well-
in the world. I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah, and what we know about the Navajo tribe or Native Americans in general, I mean, the rituals that they perform, they're like protecting their land. And are they having an impact on all the activity that's there, or was this like a specific hotspot geographically? That was there before them. It's just such a big question. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I would think that my opinion of that is I think they were drawn to this area for a reason, that they were here in the first place for a reason. Like they knew. I mean, you can go into their cultural history and look at, the beginnings, the origin stories of these different tribes, and you start realizing that they were already in touch with these elements of magic and elements of just the natural ebbs and flow of energy of the earth and the planet, and how connected with nature and animals they are and spirits and things like that is very interesting. So if there's one form of magic or energy healing or whatever you want to call it that I believe could absolutely be real, it's the Native Americans. I think they absolutely have knowledge and abilities far beyond any of us,
Right.
sort of ordinary folk have, because they've just been so, I mean, this is stuff they've carried for thousands and thousands of years. It's been passed down, and the knowledge that they have about the land and the animals and the way that they connect with both and the way that they revere them in such a strong way, I think is it all lends to, sort of the power that they hold, I guess you could say. So
they were truly some spiritual people.
And they still are. I mean, like this
Definitely.
obviously, like as times have modernized and technology, and they're some do still live.
I'm going to say this too, like, the further we get into the future, the more kids are born with these spiritual affects, whether it be tribal, whether it be spiritual, whatever it is, it's happening for a reason. It's because the veil is thinning, different things are happening. We are the people that are supposed to be here for the end times. We're supposed to be here to help. That's just my thought. But yeah, we got T-4 minutes in counting before the end of the show. But I also have to say once again, thank you, Adrian, for sharing this. I really love this channel, and I'm going to be checking in on these guys. They're freaking awesome.
How their elders used to live and ancestors live. But I mean, a lot of them still believe in the stories and still believe in, these are things, skinwalkers are real. There are, something that you need to worry about, that people, it's just like when we look at any other sort of magician or whatever you want to call it, whether you look at Aleister Crowley or some of the others out there, and you look at, how magic is used, right? Like the magic or energy are basically the same, and you can use it for good or evil.
Also, I just snorted. Also, who was the guy that was a magician that would like lock himself up in straitjacket and handcuffs and stuff like that? And he was buried, escaped. He actually did a thing underwater. I think that's where he died. Man, Houdini. Okay, so Houdini did not believe in psychics, did not believe in their bullshit. He's like, I can disprove this. This is not real. But I just recently heard he actually, being a mind manipulator or somebody that can do magic, etc., that he used the black arts. And when I heard that, I was just like, no way, because he was so against like people that talked to the other side and was trying to disprove it. Why? I don't know. That's a question for another time, I think. But
And some
pretty
people
interesting.
choose to use it for evil or use it to benefit themselves, and then others use it for good and to help others, to
What
help
is that? No.
bring people together. So it's just one of those things. It's kind of the classic story of good versus evil in a way.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to me. I'd love to learn more
Yeah.
about sort of the Navajo origin stories and learn more about some of the other, paranormal elements. I mean, there's, drawings of UFOs on rocks. If you go look at the Aboriginals, that's another culture you could look into in the future.
Yeah.
And I mean, they
Definitely.
were, they've got straight up aliens drawn on rocks, like
Tell you what, dude.
from thousands and thousands of years ago, and star people, and like it's endless. The amount of knowledge that we all kind of take for granted that they hold is beyond comprehension. Really, it's truly amazing stuff. So one thing I absolutely love is the just sort of the open-mindedness that they bring, is just like, keep your mind open to everything, and don't be so pessimistic and so like, oh, this is not real, this is bullshit. It's like,
quit being butthurt.
Right.
You don't
Jeez.
know. I mean,
Exactly,
there's a
and
lot of
that's what we're
things,
talking about.
if you think
We
about
don't
our
know.
life up to this point, that
We can
we
just
thought is
suppose or
concrete, real,
propose.
that you can believe in, you can trust, that later on we have learned to be completely false, complete bullshit. People lying, government lying. I mean, it's endless. Yeah,
Definitely.
I don't want to get too far
Back
down
the
the
government.
rabbit hole with that, but
it's definitely important to keep an open mind.
Open mind is a good mind to have, for sure. So that is where we will wrap up today's episode of Lights Out. We hope you enjoyed it. I know we sure did. It felt really good to get back into podcasting.
I truly did.
yeah.
I really freaking love that shit.
My God, we got
Hell
so many stories planned for you. So many.
Oh my God, where are these guys from?
Really scary.
Are they from our
things
area
we'll
or
be covering
what?
this year?
I would
So,
love
let us
to
know
have
what you
them on
think
my
of
show.
the new studio. Hopefully you like it.
Oh my
I know we love it. Felt really
gosh.
good, the podcast in here.
Definitely.
It helped kind of
Oh
bring
yes.
Yes, it's such a
The
vibe.
vibe.
the creepiness a little
Yeah.
bit. So
Oh, yeah.
absolutely loved it.
Fucking
But
vibe,
yeah,
tell
we're on
you what.
Spotify now for video as well. So if you haven't checked us
Hell
out on
yes.
Spotify, make sure you're following us over there. Make sure you're subscribed to us on YouTube. I think we've got like 3,000 subscribers to go
Yeah.
before
Wow.
we hit 300,000.
I have almost
so help us
300.
get there.
Yeah.
Check us out on YouTube, and you just search Lights Out Podcast. We also have all the links.
That's what I'm saying. Lights out. Hell yeah. No, those guys did such a good job. Thank you again. Once more, Adrian. I've said this several times throughout this podcast. Like, thank you so much for sharing this. I'm really going to be checking them out because I have tinnitus or tinnitus, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So I have to wear earbuds. I have to have a sound in my ears. Otherwise, it's just like... And that's been going on for a bit over 3 years. But yes, that was freaking amazing. That was Lights Out. If you guys have not seen them or whatever, go and check them out. Go subscribe and give them the what and let them know where you found them. Give us a little thumbs up. We are Paradox Media and use Nine Night Live and Light. I hope you guys have a wonderful freaking week. Please don't work too hard. Please don't take things too seriously. And I look forward to seeing you same time, same place. Also, okay, so Adrian just brought something up. I was just curious about the highway and what people know, and I came across them, guys, because there's not many information about Highway 666. Can I share a story really quick before we do put a cap on it? So I lived on Elm Street, and I was a fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. Do you, Adrian, remember the Rockaway Hotel? That was a block away from me. Somebody came off the highway and killed that poor lady that worked in the office. And then after that happened, I got messages. Pretty sure it was from Charlotte and her sisters, but they said, you're the next victim on the victims list, so fuck you. Yeah, the Rockaway. Now, I think it's the Broadway. Used to be the Rockaway, now it's the Broadway. So you go down the highway, it used to be 666. La Plata Electric is over here. They're up here. So it's Elm Street with this street. And then you go down, and then there's another street. Then you go down, then there's Empire. So it's Empire Electric. Yeah, isn't that bad? I felt so bad for her. And then, like I'm saying, we got that phone call And I'm saying, I think it was Charlotte. I don't think it was the person involved. Exactly. I think because, I don't know, I think their life was probably messed up or something. But yeah, we were all afraid because we were young kids. Like, I think I was like 12, maybe 13 at the time. And then my siblings were younger. So it had to be like, don't worry, nothing's going to happen. But we turned off all the lights. We hid. We pretended like we weren't at home. You go down. So we're in the middle of this block. You go down, then you go over. So we're at the last fraction of a block. Go down and go over. There's the Rockaway Motel, which they changed that name because of what happened. That poor lady. She was so sweet. I feel so bad for her. But yeah, she was bludgeoned to death. And then we were all afraid, like, this is going to spread. Something else is going to happen. But I think they just moved along. Man, I really feel bad for her and her kids or grandkids or whoever else that was. Schmot back? What's that? What? We could pick up on that afterwards, but anywho's, I just have to say once again, night night, live and light. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me during story time, especially with this video that Mr. Adrian shared with us. I'm super grateful because I've had different experiences. I've always felt weird driving down that highway, even though, like, I don't know, the scenery is so beautiful and so different than any other place that you could be. Right? Maybe we can talk about that later, Adrian. But I'll have to say, night night, love and light. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next weekend where I don't know what the frack we're doing. It's gonna be a surprise! Coyote Jack. Yep, that's what it is. All right. Night night, live and light. See you guys later. Take care of my yous, and please don't take life too seriously. Enjoy every moment because not all of us get that opportunity.